Ignorance is simply the soil that the seed of education needs to be planted. And you can tweet that out, people. I'm just going to say, because with education, you can grow what is supposed to be there versus what the people are living in now.
Welcome to RevOps Champions, a podcast designed for revenue professionals looking to advance sales and marketing initiatives through the role of RevOps within their organizations. In each episode, we feature leaders who are leveraging technology to drive operational efficiency, revenue, and improve the customer experience. Listen in and learn how to become a better RevOps leader within your own organization. Let's get started.
I am super excited for this episode today. I've got my friends Devyn Bellamy from HubSpot and George B. Thomas. These two are the men, the myth, the legends. And we are going to talk about online communities and the key factors to creating engaging communities. And I know it's going to be a really awesome conversation. Let's kick it off. Just for the audience that maybe doesn't know you, Devyn, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you work for, and what community that you are the most active in.
Cool. So my name is Devyn Bellamy. I work for HubSpot. I'm a senior marketing manager in the partner enablement. So I work with HubSpot partners. The communities that I am most active in, I'd say the first one is the partner community. I've been a member of the partner ecosystem for quite a few years now, first as a partner and now as a HubSpotter working with the partners. And so I create a lot of video content and just talk to partners in general. And I'm also the founder of Black and Inbound. And that was a community that started out as a hashtag back in 2016.
That's awesome. And we actually have some clips from that will be added in post-production. So I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to talk for a few minutes. And we were there was a whole section at Inbound 2022 for the Black at community, and it was just fantastic. Every time I walked by it was just thriving with people.
I loved it. There is a phenomenal team of people that work together to make that happen. And I'm just impressed with every single one of them and what they accomplished there.
Absolutely. And it was, may I say, gorgeous. I think it was the absolute most beautiful area in the whole exhibit hall.
Shout out to Cassandra Mendes. She did some amazing stuff. If working at HubSpot doesn't work out, she can always just switch to being an interior designer because it was gorgeous.
It really was. It was. How about you, George?
Yeah, so overarching, the community that I'm most part of is just the HubSpot community in general. That could be certified HubSpot trainers, that could be HubSpot partners, that could be whatever. It's just HubSpot in general. The fun thing for me is I've actually had the opportunity to build 3 micro communities inside of the HubSpot ecosystem. So back in the day in 2013, we started the Hubcast at the sales line, and that quickly became its own little community around podcast content, HubSpot how-to content. After that, I ended up creating Sprocket Talk at Impulse Creative, which we grew a YouTube channel over almost 8,000 subscribers, had a website, membership, all sorts of fun stuff. And again, around HubSpot education, interviews, how-tos, really helping people just get in, get out, get back to work, but give them the tools that they needed. And now the latest and final community, dare I say, at georgebthomas.com with the Hub Heroes. And again, not reinventing the wheel because we know what works, right, but it is a podcast. It's a YouTube channel. It's helpful and valuable content and much more that we'll talk about for the rest of this interview when it pertains to actually building a community around something or someone that you're trying to build.
Right on. And I just have to laugh. When we go back to the Hubcast days, I can remember having a little travel microphone that you carried in your backpack. And wherever we could find a little corner for you and Marcus to record, that's what you did. You, even going way back in the day, You just did what you had to do wherever you were in order to keep the momentum going. And I think that is a critical factor to the success, to the ongoing success, is just showing up every day in whatever way you can. And it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be perfect. And it's funny, Tiff, to hear you talk about it. It was the ATR 2100 microphone, which was nice because it's USB and you could be anywhere. But the key point of what you're talking about, and it's one of the superpowers. By the way, I think, we have superpowers. That's why we're able to do what we can do. One of my superpowers, I didn't realize it was a superpower, and it is just being able to be behind this mic and communicate with humans. When Marcus first brought up the idea of a podcast, I told him, "You're out of your mind, dude. I hate my voice. I think my voice is squeaky. I've had to live with it my entire life." Yet when we started the Hubcast, we got to the, I think it was inbound 2014, and I heard over and over, "Dude, you sound like a radio announcer." And I'm like, "What?" And my
both
biggest,
of you do.
Yeah, what I thought was my biggest weakness ended up being one of my superpowers that I actually leverage for now the past 10 years. But the second one that I'll add to that is, and you alluded to it, consistency. No matter what, consistency, showing up, creating that value, creating that content, caring about that community over and over and over again.
Preach it, brother. So speaking of caring about that community and the consistency, Devyn, what are the struggles that you have had, whether it's starting the Black and Inbound community or the Hub Partners, whichever comes to mind, or even once it was started, the struggles for, keeping that ship going and headed towards the North Star that you had in your sights?
Sure. Well, with Hub Heroes, it was easy. You just show up and kind of hang on to George, and everything else more or less takes care of itself. The man is a force of nature, and I can say that I was a fan of his before he even knew my name. So I am definitely a George B. Thomas stan. But as far as Black and Inbound's concerned, my biggest challenge, and actually the reason why I created Black and Inbound, is that in real life, I have social anxiety issues. I am not good with people in one-to-one settings, which is hilarious because I'm great with people in one-to-many settings. You give me a microphone, you put me on a stage, I'm going to crush it 10 times out of 10 because that's just what I do. But if you sit me down and tell me to have a conversation with someone, it's like, oh my goodness, the world is closing in on me. So that was the biggest challenge for me. But coincidentally, it's why I started Black and Inbound, because when I went to my first inbound in 2016, it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, and quite possibly could have been the last time I would ever be in a situation where I'm surrounded by so many like-minded individuals, so many marketers, and so many opportunities for connection and growing my social capital, because I had finally figured out at the ripe old age of 35 that if I was going to build my career, it wasn't going to be about answering job listings. It would be about who I knew. And I knew Inbound was the place to be to meet the who's who of the world I was trying to be a part of. But again, hate talking to people. But my other superpower is direct sales. I can go door to door and sell anything. Did it for a number of years. Not the best job, but it is, as we used to call it, the boot camp of the business. And so what I did is I took my ability to sell with this hashtag, and I went to every single Black person I could find and said, "Hey, did you hear about the hashtag?" And they said, "No, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Oh, Black and Inbound. It's the thing. You got to check it out on Twitter." "All right, catch you later." And so what I did is I had my 5 steps of the conversation, and then I incorporated my fear of loss. Everybody's talking about it. You got to check it out. And it was just, I was just thinking door-to-door sales, and it kind of grew into this thing, and it was awesome. But the biggest challenge for me was just getting off my butt and doing it, and having the courage to be the first person to start talking. Everyone loves being in conversation. Nobody wants to be in a room talking to themselves while everyone ignores them.
I have this vision, and I know you don't live in Cambridge, but I still have this vision of Devyn going from office to office at HubSpot and practicing his speech on, joining the community. So that's hilarious. I think that's great. I also identify with, I am much better in groups than I am one-on-one. There's something about that. And unless I really know you, I love the one-on-one, but with people that I don't really know very well, I definitely get tripped up especially now that we do so much virtual like this. 3, 4, 5 is a magic sweet spot for me. Up to 10, of course, I can stand on stage, not like George can, but, I bow to the master there. How about you, George? Talk to me about your struggles.
Yeah. So first of all, let me unpack. I love Devyn's story about I made it a thing before it was a thing so it could become a thing. By the way, that's inbound. That literally is HubSpot's inbound. They made it a thing before it was a thing so it could be a thing. So that's super powerful to break down that strategy and something that one of the listeners or viewers might be trying to build as they move forward past this piece of content. It's funny because the things that were originally these hurdles, the potholes, the difficulties of community have long past, gone by, but I want to talk about them. And I'm actually facing right now what I'll call a new demon, which is new to me. And I'm trying to figure out how to slay it and move forward and really give the maximum amount of value to the HubSpot community as humanly possible. But let me go back in time a little bit, because honestly, one of the things that was the biggest hurdle to creating a community was myself. What I mean by that is my limiting beliefs of that I even belonged in the room or that anybody would want to hear the things that I would have to say. And what I had to learn along the way is that everybody will be able to create a tribe that is their tribe. And you just have to stay true to yourself. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to crush this limiting belief system that somehow gets embedded in your brain. And so there was a lot of days and hours and years to reprogram the brain of you do belong. This is who you are. This is how they want you to show up. And so now it's well, of course I would create 20 tutorials today. That's how the HubSpot community wants me to show up. Or I would create a great piece of content for them. The other side of this, once you get past yourself, I'll never forget when we launched the Hubcast and I had this paralyzing thought of how am I going to come up with a new idea every single week? How am I going to come up with something that people give two craps about and just don't want to turn it off and tune out? And so this layer of idea, or ideation or creation was a huge thing at the very beginning. But then all of a sudden, your brain starts to work in a different direction. And Tiffany, you've seen me do this, where I'll be in the middle of a conversation. I'll be like, ooh, that'd be a great blog article. Ooh, that'd be a great video. And I'm literally content first mentality, where there's so many ideas, I don't know which one to do first. Versus where it used to be of I don't know what we're gonna, what we're gonna do. Now, here's the thing that is, I think, the biggest hurdle or pothole to the Hub Heroes community, and that is scalability. How do we create enough, fast enough, good enough to reach what once used to be 2,500 users, 4,000 partners, that is now 400,000 humans, 20,000 partners. How do we create a system, a process, a team, if you will, where we're doing the George B. Thomas thing as far as implementation, training, and coaching, but also there's this kind of side engine that really is this mini media company and creating valuable educational content at scale in the way that we like to create it, which is edutainment, entertaining and educational all in one little bundle.
Yeah, so I want to dig into a couple of those pieces. I think that, speaking of the limiting beliefs, I think that goes so far back into our childhood that I find myself actively having those conversations with my teenagers right now. Find your tribe, find the people. Middle school doesn't have to be miserable, although most people will tell you it was. But the sooner you find the people that think and enjoy the things that you do, the better life gets. And that's just another definition of community, whether it's online or offline. I also think the scaling of a community. Have you ever been engaged in a community, that a virtual community, and there was a great, whether it's LinkedIn or a Facebook group, and there's a great conversation going on, but there's already 300, 5,000, 10,000 comments. How often do you guys engage when it feels like nobody's going to see this? I think that's the biggest challenge with scaling a community, is how do we continue to engage as it grows? Because it can't be the way that it was when there was only 100 people and you're able to just talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. That's why HubSpot created HubSpot user groups. That's why churches create, these micro groups that meet in homes. That's why, in any, let's just say Sprocketeers, the Discord channel, it's different areas of conversations that you can dive into to actually have the conversations that you want with the people that you want to have them with. And so you have to pay attention at what is a macro strategy for for community growth, but then you have to think of the micro enabling of the conversations at the same time. And a lot of people, especially marketers or agencies or app partners who are like, we'll build a community. They're doing the whole lead gen strategy and not the let's have human conversation strategy at the same time with it. That's many times why communities will fail, is because we're looking at it as one prong versus the two, if not three or more, that it needs to be.
For sure. Devyn, what kind, I know there's sub-communities within the partner program. Can you talk a little bit about those? And are there sub-communities within Black at Inbound at this point?
Sure. With Black at Inbound, it's not so much sub-communities, just we have different conversation topics and our meetups can be thematic. And what we'll find is when we meet up, we'll go and we'll just get down and talk on just one particular topic. And then we'll, jump to something else. But we're all operating under you could call it the macro topic of being Black, and not just in America, all around the world. Because the cool thing about Black at Inbound, it's global, it's dope. But like, for instance, we can all have a conversation and a learning experience about what it is to be Black in corporate America in France. That was a whole conversation. I learned so much. It was wild. And in the partner community, it is, around different service offerings. It's around different hubs, HubSpot hubs. It's about questions regarding, hey, anybody have a proposal that I can show an example of? And at the end of the day, a community is an opportunity for people to nerd out about something they're passionate about. And if it's something that they're passionate enough about, there's going to be additional conversational topics and even consistent subject matter that people are going to nerd out about. Like if you look at the Star Wars universe, That's something like we can talk about nerding out about sci-fi. Then we can talk about nerding out about Star Wars. Then we can talk about the fact that if you watch The Mandalorian in the episode where Moff Gideon comes out and has the Mandalorian cornered along with all of his friends, and you look at all the stormtroopers that were extras in that, all those stormtroopers bought all of their own costumes because the company, the production company, didn't have enough stormtrooper costumes. So they found a very specific subset of nerds who just walk around and do their thing with stormtrooper costumes. Like, hey, could you come hang out? And they're like, yeah. And so being able to find that level of niche love for what you can call a macro topic, being able to have and enable that within your community, that's when you know you're winning. When it's not about you and what you want, but it's about catering to the humans who have come together out of love for what it is that you're doing. And stop trying to steer it and make it what you want, but adapt to what it is and be able to tap into that when needed.
Yeah, and by the way, let me just jump in. Let me jump in for a second because that's the 501st Legion. By the way, the 501st Legion of Stormtroopers that had their own outfits that showed up on set. And if you go to Disney Plus and watch the making of The Mandalorian, you literally get to see how dang excited and kind of part of the process around that. And just to be able to say you're part of the 501st Legion and that you got to do that is like, you know how much social, like, just juice there is out there for people to like even go check out stuff. We're talking about it right now.
I have envious goosebumps. I literally have goosebumps thinking about how that must have felt for those people, because I know how I would have felt if I would have had the experience to go be C-3PO. That is the ultimate Star Wars bucket list for me, is to be C-3PO. And I literally had goosebumps from head to toe just considering the possibility. I feel like what you just said, Devyn, was embrace the conversations that the community brings up, as long as they're respectful, right? Despite the fact that it may not be like your key topics. For example, if you're talking about being Black in this community, I would imagine that there's a lot of conversations that don't have anything to do with marketing or HubSpot, but about your life experiences in this world, and not to shy away from those conversations, because that's actually the glue that keeps you all together.
That's it. And the thing is that even the disrespectful conversations, you don't have to engage, you don't have to feed the trolls, but also listening to the difference between a troll and a detractor, and understanding what someone's negative experience might be. And it could be an opportunity to improve what you got going on.
Absolutely. And I'd add a third there. So you mentioned a troll and a detractor. I would add, I think there are people that fundamentally misunderstand without any ill intent. Mm-hmm. And so being able to have a conversation with them, I say this with my kids all the time because they think that I'm saying one thing that's completely different of what they're saying. Let's talk about this so that we can gain some conversation back and forth. And I think in the closing, I think Obama referred to that. Let's have a conversation so that we can understand each other better. And that's how we move forward together as a country. Now we're getting way off to the side.
Well, but you're not though, really. You're not really getting off to the side though, right? Because at the end of the day, that's another superpower to, if you're going to build or grow a community, is this thing of conversation. And when I think about that, it's about conversation in the effort to listen, not conversation in the effort to be right. And there's a level of, if you're going to go in this route of community, you have to be an open-minded human being, meaning you're listening to educate. Like one of the things you said, there's a third thing here. Tiffany, I would use the word, and unfortunately the word has a negative connotation, but I don't mean it in a negative way. The layer of ignorance. Which, by the way, ignorance is simply the soil that the seed of education needs to be planted. And you can tweet that out, people. I'm just going to say, because with education, you can grow what is supposed to be there versus what the people are living in now. And so thinking about this from the level of conversation, listening, and what you do out of that is very important. And hopefully we get to a point where we talk about these things that we do to kind of build these communities or enable these communities to grow themselves, actually.
Sure. So speaking of that, what's working well?
What's working well is that we're listening and we're engaging. As we're rolling out a program in the partner community accreditations, we're hearing and listening to everything that partners are saying. Not necessarily engaging in all of it, because there are people who are detractors and there are people who just talk because they want to be heard. But we're definitely listening and making sure that not only is the messaging appropriate, but understanding that what we're doing for the program needs to be appropriate, because ultimately these are the people that we're doing it for and want to engage in our product. And so the thing that will always work well is listening.
And when did you realize that was happening? When did you realize that it was going well? And I think sometimes there's this point of you start something and you're not sure. And then there's like a point which you turn a corner and you're like, okay, I'm going to double down on something.
Well, at the end of the day, you have to be authentic and be true to yourself. And this is just a general community statement. There is a line between doubling down and aligning with your community and pandering. And what you don't want to do is basically be authentic in anything, inauthentic, I should say, in anything that you do. You want to, even if your authenticity is not aligned with your community. Like, you look at all the different brands that have been hijacked by nationalists, and you look at the different brand responses. Some of them are silent and just quietly collect the money from their newfound popularity. There are others that just like make the statement, hey, chill out. But then there are other brands that are flat out like, no, this ain't what we do. This ain't what we believe. And as a matter of fact, we're going to donate all kinds of money to these organizations that represent the antithesis of the vitriol that you're spewing. And that is the kind that I respect, because even if it can seem counterintuitive, be true and be authentic. And at the end of the day, you're going to be respected, whether you're liked or not. At the end of the day, there's always going to be someone you can find that can like you, but respect is finite.
Yeah.
And I get in trouble for this all the time, because there are brands that I respect for them standing up for what they believe in, even though what they believe in is not what I believe in. And thank goodness we live in a country where we can do that. And that gets me in a lot of conversations that are sometimes hard to navigate, because having respect for someone that has a different opinion, I think we're still learning how to navigate those kinds of conversations. George, I feel like you're just biting your lip, waiting to say you can go now.
No, it's good. And it's funny because part of me wants to unpack what you just said, and the fact of, well, that's when you know that you actually accept the humans for who they are and not maybe what they've done. But anyway, that's a whole deeper conversation. What I want to get back to is your question around this, well, what's working? And for me, I've noticed two things that have been vitally important to this new journey that I'm on with Hub Heroes and the George B. Thomas brand and all that good stuff. One is actually going the extra mile. Taking time to produce or create something that is at a deeper level versus what has been okay on the internet up until this point is a lot of surface level content, a lot of surface level conversations, but actually going the extra mile. Right. A great example of this is the fact of even trying to go the extra mile of getting Max Cohen and Devyn Bellamy to meet on a weekly basis to create a piece of content for a HubSpot community. That's extra mile. Making sure that we actually had almost 27 ideas in the can before we hit the record button for the first episode. Making sure that we're putting together a team that actually helps us ask the right questions, have the right conversations, go deeper than what, historical podcasts that I have created actually went. Going the extra mile is always a good thing. Add into that a second layer of do what feels like it's unscalable. What I mean by that is, and I was having a conversation with my son the other day, and he goes, Dad, how much money are you going to spend on creating people into cartoons? And I said to him, I'll spend as much money as it'll take, because the thing is, as you cartoon people, as people start to have those conversations, that is social conversations, that is reciprocity, that is actually evoking an emotion. I can't tell you the emotions that I see via email or via social when I deliver a Green Lantern to Kyle Jepsen, when I deliver an Iron Man to Kevin Dunn, when I create, a green, and I don't create them, by the way, I pay to have them created, but Eric Brenner as the Arrow, Christina Garnett as, Scarlet Witch. Thank you. Right. So all of I'm creating
Tiffany
this
Kane as the Lady Sprocketeer.
There we go. Like it's coming, people. It's coming. So, but the thing is, right, I'm creating an entire Hub Heroes multiverse of characters. By the way, don't care if it's Marvel, don't care if it's DC. We're bringing them all in. But the idea is it's something special. It's actually unscalable, but I'll continue to do it the entire time that I'm doing this thing, because it's just so ingrained into who I am and who I'm trying to show up as. And that is creating these moments, right? You go to my website, it's about being the catalyst for these moments. And so whether it's creating a cartoon, whether it's creating 1,000 episodes, but it's doing that thing that at first feels unscalable. Because here's the thing, going back to what we originally talked about was consistency. By the way, I'm nothing special. As much as you guys want to say the things that you've said on this episode, I am just a human being that actually did something very unspectacular. I created HubSpot how-to content. However, what makes it exceptional is that I've done it for 10 years. That's the difference, right? Mm-hmm. Just like you said, Tiffany, showing up, doing the unscalable day after day after day after day. And then all of a sudden it becomes like this exceptional, amazing story that you can sit back and tell to the community, to your kids, to your grandchildren, whatever.
And that takes resilience sometimes to keep marching forward when you might feel like nobody's listening, nobody cares, right? You start to get, and oh my gosh, how many conversations have you and I had about when I'm all up in my head about why am I doing this? And the cartoons, that creates a permanent connection to your community. So what can we all do in our own communities to create a permanent connection? What does that look like?
Man, I love this question so much. So I think it comes down to, and I always used to call this owner mentality. Like you own the community, you own the process around it. You have to like just head first, all the way in. Everything you have. And so when you think about owner mentality, where I am starting to go is with this kind of play on the word CEO. right? And what I mean by CEO is there's something that you're doing with each of those letters. First of all, if you're going to build a community, you have to create. I don't care what it is, but you have to create. You have to create some type of content, video content, textual content, audio content. You have to create the space for them to show up. The value, you have to create the value that they're going to fall in love with. So there's this idea of create. The second thing, and I think it's probably the most powerful piece of it, is you have to be empathetic. I'm not even going to try to go there. You know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
Empathize. There we go. If I let my brain catch up, empathize with the humans that you're actually serving inside of your community. So you're creating a safe space. You're creating the content. It is based out of empathy, walking a mile in their shoes, understanding the problems that they face, believing in the aspirations that they're trying to reach. Right. And then the next piece of it is actually optimize. It's optimizing the things that you've created. It's optimizing the life that they can live. It's optimizing you as a human being so you can deliver the most to them. And if I think about this, for me, that actually came down to working with a coach. And the optimization part is what I'm speaking about, because y'all know that I create content. I create community. I empathize. I am as human and authentic as I can possibly be. You get what you get on stage at my fire pit at home or wherever we meet.
I know that for sure.
The optimized part for me was working with a coach and literally being asked, what would happen, George, if you showed up as a whole ass human? And actually optimize myself because I forgave who I was in my younger years to then have more power to be who I am going to be in my next years.
I feel like that's a whole episode. I want to talk to the naysayers who are listening right now, who would say, but Devyn and George, there's no ROI for a community. I know this is going to get you guys really hot. So I'm excited to hear. Get your gloves out. Why does a community either have an ROI or it doesn't matter either way?
Devyn, go first.
Okay. If people aren't excited enough about what it is that you're doing to share or to nerd out about it, it's not going to matter. And the other thing is that if your product or service or something about the problem that you solve doesn't impassion people, you're in the wrong business. But most importantly, community is one of the best opportunities you can get to delight. It's an opportunity for you to put your ear to my favorite example is a trend that you see on TikTok. I think it's a functionality that's built into TikTok where you can create a video reply of someone in your comments. And it shows that comment on that level of community engagement and getting people to, it inspires other people to engage with hope that they get that recognition. It's like there is so much potential for ROI in community building and solving problems and making your customers grow better, making your company grow better. It's like there's a reason why HubSpot is focusing heavily on community in 2023. The name of the team that I'm on is community-led growth. I mean,
there's no point in having an evangelist if they don't have any place to evangelize. I just made up that word, if it's not a real word.
No, that's a word. You're good. So, oh man. So this frustrates me because there's probably 27 different ways that I could go with the answer to this question. But the question is, what would you say to somebody that believes there's no ROI in community? Well, I'd say it's horse crap. That's the first thing I'd say, just to get it out there, because here's the thing, and the direction I'm going to go is when we say the words or the word ROI, return on investment. Unfortunately, what people do many times when they set out to build a community is they are focused on actually the success of combining a couple or a bunch of people together to be able to eventually turn it into a revenue generating process or system, or lead generating system or process. The unfortunate thing is community is not about success. Community is about significance. So if your goal is significance, and the way that you or your company is able to pour themselves into the lives of the humans that you're serving, and your whole goal is to be significant in the world. By the way, HubSpot's goal to be significant to businesses who need a better way to do business in a digital world. That's what they are trying to do and have tried to do since 2010 or whenever it started. That's why I bought in. Don't call me a customer. Call me human. Give me a better set of tools to actually treat people better. If I go back to an earlier conversation, HubSpot for me has actually only been a doorway or a window to teach people how to be better humans through the lens of HubSpot. Okay? So it's not about success. It's about significance in the world. And it's not necessarily about revenue, right? And we said this on Hub Heroes podcast, when people will actually stop thinking about the transaction and start thinking about the transformation, now you're going to get somewhere, because there is a reason why when I decided to no longer work at an agency, and for 10 years I had been building 2 other communities, that it was literally like walking over to the wall and flipping on a revenue switch, because I had been focused on relationships for 10 years. So the ROI is there, but not if it's your initial strategy. It's the outcome of what you'll do because of it.
I think the key word there is significance. I think that's pretty powerful. As we wrap up, tell me what's one thing you're going to do this week to make someone in your community feel significant.
You talk to them. That's the biggest thing. You be active and answer questions, acknowledge their existence. The worst part about Twitter is when you tweet, you're essentially shouting into the ether, and you may or may not get engagement. You don't even know how you did or whether or not what you did or said impacted anything. But when you're engaging in a community, when someone says something or asks the question and you acknowledge them, and the person who you're acknowledging knows that you are someone who is well known in the community, it makes them feel like huge. Gary Vee is a master of it. Gary Vee is one of the reasons why I started Black at Inbound. I tweeted and tagged him, and I had just seen him. I wish that I could go out and meet more people at this event. And he's like, and he tweets me back, and he's like, do it. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to do it, Gary Vee. And that level of engagement, interaction only takes a second, but it's the most powerful thing you can do.
Yeah. I +1 that all day long, without a doubt. And it's funny because I both love this question, Tiffany, and I hate this question, because people will immediately try to like engineer some spectacular, masterful thing to make somebody feel special. And it's not needed. My answer to you to make somebody feel special this week is I'm not going to be a douchebag. I'm going to be somebody who is willing to pick up. Yeah. But here's the thing. Yeah. But here's the thing though. Like, it's simple, right? And it sounds funny, but I'm going to be the type of person that's willing to pick up the phone. I'm going to be the person that's willing to return the text, no matter if there's money involved or not. I can't tell you how many times I've got on a Zoom call and they start out, I can't believe, I feel like I'm actually part of a YouTube video right now. I can't believe I'm on the call with you. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. Or even let's take Grant and Sprocketeers as an example. He reached out. Would you be willing to be on a podcast episode? Absolutely. It's my first episode. I don't care. I'm not going to be a douchebag. I'm going to be a good human that cares about other humans, creates value in the world, and is focused on being significant to those who choose to be around me. That's how I'm going to make them feel special.
The most rewarding part for me usually comes from when I just riff off something about what I'm going through at the moment. And a lot of times I'm processing what it is that I'm feeling by sharing in the community. And I get a reply that says, "Thank you so much for sharing that. I needed to hear that today." Whether it's I needed to know that I'm not the only one, or I needed that reminder, those are the days where my heart is full from engaging in that community. And it usually doesn't have a whole lot to do with the business at hand that spawned the group, but in the connection, right, of the whole community. If our audience would like to join any of your communities as we wrap up, if you would tell us where they can go. Devyn, you go first.
Sure. If you want to connect with us at Black and Inbound, you just go to HubSpot.com/Black and Inbound.
All one word, no dashes?
Yep. Nope, just all one word, HubSpot.com/Black and Inbound. And you'll find the link to join the community. You can see the events there and come and hang out. And if you're in the Solutions Partner community, you should already be in the community, but if not, you can always go to the Tiers and Benefits Guide or your Partner Resource Center, and you'll find links on how to join the different community locations there.
Yeah, for me, I'll just keep it easy. You can go to georgebthomas.com, head over to the Resource tab. Under the Resource tab, you're going to see Heroes or League of Heroes, Hub Heroes, League of Heroes. Under there, you're going to see the Hub Heroes podcast. You're going to see the Hub Heroes blog. You're going to see the Hub Heroes YouTube channel. And you're going to see the Hub Heroes Facebook group. So any of those places that you like to play or educate yourself or want to be involved in, you can do that. But again, georgebthomas.com, engage. I'm here. Shoot, send me an email, george@georgebthomas.com. I don't care. I'm here for it. I'm here for you.
That's love. That's love.
And I believe that all three of us, George, I know you are. Devyn, I'm not sure, but we're all in the Sprocketeer community that Grant founded earlier this year. So you can also find any of us. Probably the easiest place to find that is just search for Sprocketeer on LinkedIn, and that will come up, and there'll be links to the Discord group from there. So thank you, gentlemen, for always being legends. I'm so grateful for your time, and let's talk soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here. Have fun.
Thank you for checking out this episode of RevOps Champions. This show is powered by Dynamico, a HubSpot consulting firm, helping businesses level up the technology systems that power their ability to scale. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow RevOps Champions wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or visit RevOpsChampions.com to get immediate access to all of the latest episodes.